Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I've got a question for y'all. Is it good to live a life and not learn from it? To not learn from mistakes? To not learn from experience? I think most of us would agree that it is important to learn from the things we experience in life, to learn in the process of life. It's a very depressing thought to think of someone, an old man or old woman, that has not really learned a whole lot, has not grown, has not evolved. It's a sobering thought to think that we can go through life and not learn from it. How could we be more conscious in this process, and what could we gain from it? I think if we learn from our mistakes, if we are able to distill wisdom from life experience, then maybe life can become better. We can grow. Sounds pretty boring though, doesn't it? I mean, let's be real here. But really, it's not. Because what is it? It's living life experience. Whether you're hiking a mountain or having a conversation with someone or eating a meal, anything that you're doing. It is fun, you know, to live life and engage in life, to do interesting things, talk to people, you know. All of these things are about gaining experience and learning from it, the school of life, to treat it truly as a school. But yeah, life can be amazing. Oftentimes, I think we tend to complain about life. Well, my life isn't like this. Well, change it. Make it how you want to be. Learn to play with life. Life doesn't have to be a drudgery. It could also be, I think that's one of the most important lessons that people can learn, is to play with life. But yeah, the rewards and the catastrophes are very real too. So, yeah, this is something that I've been contemplating a lot, you know. About 6 months ago, I was starting to think of this idea of doing cool things, you know. And I was planning on taking videos, you know, of some of the stuff, like go see Bourbon Street and do like a Bourbon Street video, you know, go in the voodoo shops and, yeah, get some of that on camera. A lot of people haven't seen 6th Street. Austin is pretty cool. For Texas, yes, it's pretty cool. I don't know. Top of a mountain, record it. It would be cool. Something I've thought about, you know. Maybe what people learn isn't all just rational and left-brained and analytical. A lot of what we learn is experiential. Something interesting about me that I'm gonna put out there. Yeah, I've decided. I started taking Jordan Peterson's. I never really got into his stuff. Never got into his stuff. But it was given to me as a gift from a friend. Self-authoring. Yeah, self-authoring. It's pretty cool. I'm digging it, you know. I'm not putting this in my videos like, you know, Jordan Peterson, you know, 1999. I'm not doing that, you know. But yeah, I'm doing it. Mine was free, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's but I'm going to do it like long term, you know? And the self-authoring, you know, you can't really help people to learn, you know, you can't, I have to always try things, and I have to walk the path, you know, it's important, of self-knowledge. Anything that can bring self-knowledge, I think, is important. Self-awareness is sometimes the hardest thing because we don't want to see our faults or whatever, you know. That's why we don't like people that criticize us, you know. We don't want to be around them. It's painful, you know. But no, I think it's important to know our faults. Yeah. And if we can work through our faults, then we're able to better life. What interests me right now is how can we as human beings live life more fully and better, and better our lives, and also reach a spiritual dimension as well. Yeah, how could our lives be more spiritual, philosophical? How can we have growth, you know? And it ties into so many things, you know? Psychology, philosophy, all of these things. Yeah, this stuff fascinates me. But, yeah, I'm gonna do the, what I plan to do, what you do is you write out about your past, you know? And when you have to put something on paper or type it, you know, when you write something out, you have to like collect your thoughts. But in this exercise, you have to daydream about your past. And so anyways, I'm planning to do it for 7 weeks. You know, because you divide your life into 7 epochs and write about it. So the first week, I'm going to contemplate like early childhood, you know, like up to 5. Second week, I'm going to really contemplate and write out and think about elementary school, you know. Third week is going to be middle school, you know. I'm going to break it, and I'm going to do like my teenage years were kind of fun. Not going to lie. Do my teenage years. That's not going to be very many bad memories at all. Early 20s were pretty cool. Yeah. Then I got to do yeah. I'm going to write out. But I've been through a lot of, I've been through a lot of stuff too, you know, like everybody. Everybody's got to work through stuff. But, yeah. So that's stage 1 is you process your past. Stage 2 is your present. Think about your flaws and your weaknesses, also your strengths, and how to capitalize on them. And then you write out your future. So I'm always trying different exercises and, you know, stuff I learn about. It's just a non-stop thing with me, you know. It's either yoga or Taoism and their Taoist techniques, or I'm getting into Orthodox, you know, Christianity, and yeah, I'm always experimenting with things. That's what I do, you know. Yeah, been doing it all my life, experimenting with things. So hopefully this will bring growth. And I have a bunch of other stuff that I'm working on too. That's just one minor exercise that I'm doing. Yeah. Right now I'm going to try to make a period of purging, and then... Okay, I always do things... There's this cyclical thing that I've always done, you know. I've done it since... I guess since I was about 22 years old. I've done it a long time, yeah. What was it? Yeah. I always go with cyclical seasons, you know? Because like the ancients, they would meditate upon nature to draw wisdom, you know? Before you had written languages and before books, you know, people didn't have tomes of books, you know. They would receive oral wisdom teachings, of course, but I think that the ancient, they would meditate upon nature and draw certain truths, you know, Kind of goes back to the Hermetic adage, as above, so below. Every day we seem to go through what looks like a life cycle. What would look like a life cycle to the ancients. I'm not saying it's literally a life cycle, but I'm saying it could appear similar, through the law of analogy, as above, so below. Every day we wake up, this is kind of like a birth, Yeah. Midday, we are like in the height of life, in maturity, And then towards the close of the day, we retire from our labors, we relax, we repose. This is kind of like old age, Finally, we go to bed, we lie down. It's almost like a death, We go to sleep, we go enter a dream world. To the ancients, this would appear like an afterlife, We see a life cycle in a day, and we see a life cycle in a year. In the winter, everything appears to be dead. In the winter, we don't see insects all around, the trees are bare. We don't hear birds chirping everywhere, I mean, there is life, but nature seems to have died in a way in the winter. In the spring, everything blooms with life. Insects, all these things. This must have appeared like a birth. Not to mention all the fertility. And once you get to the summer, everything is blooming with life. This is like maturity. Yeah. And then in the autumn, the leaves begin to turn, kind of like gray hairs. The leaves fall off. Autumn is old age. And it's interesting that Halloween, Samhain, the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, Fête Gede, depends on what culture you're in. Like mid-autumn, this is around November 1st, October 31st, is celebrated in many cultures around the world as a time of death. Not every culture, but many. So obviously that's something that resonates deeply with human beings, Often around Halloween or Samhain or All Hallows Eve, or often around this time of year, the weaker part of the cattle would be killed, because they wouldn't survive anyways, They kill off the weaker part of the cattle. It's a period of decline and death. And then what's coming up? Christmas, the birth of the incarnation of God, or Yule, or the winter solstice. In Orthodox Christianity, they talk about it being the incarnation, the mystery of the divine incarnation, Union of man and God. Yeah. It's birth. Judaism celebrates Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, It's interesting that it's around this time that daylight reaches its weakest point and then begins to increase. New Year's. So I always go by seasons. And within them, of course, are holidays that correspond. But really, it's the seasons that I focus upon. Holidays are good markers, too, But, yeah. So around this time of birth, during the fall, I try to, or around this period, the time of death, I've done this for many years. I focus on what I'm cutting out bad habits, cutting out negative people, all of that during this time of year. And then around Christmas, I focus on what This is the birth, it's like the seed. What am I going to begin working on this year, you know? And then New Year's, everyone does New Year's resolutions. But I take that shit very seriously, you know? My New Year's resolutions, it's not just a custom for me. It is literally my plan for the next year. And all year I work on it. And if I don't succeed at something, it really bothers me, you know? So I take it very seriously. My New Year's resolution aren't just resolutions. They are my goal of the coming year, period. And then around the springtime, I'm really working towards my goals, you know. And it's like planting the seed, you know. So I'm preparing up, you know, during the winter, and then and really focusing during the winter. I'm like focusing my mind. This is what I'm doing this year. This is what I'm doing this year. This is what you have to psych yourself up, you know. This is like the gas to the fire. I'm focused on it. This is what I'm doing. I'm preparing, you know, maybe doing some work on it. And then spring, it's like work, activity. I'm working on it. And by summer, I should begin to see results. You know, I'm working hard, full activity in the summer. And then around the time of harvest, the beginning of autumn, I tend to celebrate and look back on what I've accomplished that year. I celebrate, and I spend that time thinking back, reminiscing on the year and what I've accomplished, you know? And I enjoy the fruits of my labors. And then I come back to the period of, you know, around Samhain, what am I cutting out of my life? And the process begins again, the seed of the next year, winter solstice, what am I going to do? And I get my goals, which are my resolutions, and then I work on them throughout the year. And so, in a way, in every fall, you know, harvest, I tend to focus, celebrate, and look back at what I've done. You know, hopefully I did well. And this is what I do every year for self-improvement. It works amazingly well for me, and it is kind of like a life cycle, you know? Your death of what's unnecessary, the birth of your goal, you know, you're really working on it, peak of activity, and then the period like old age, you know, retiring, looking back, enjoying the fruits of your labors and looking back and celebrating what you've done, yeah. But, yeah, I think it's important. I think it's important that we learn from life and that we try to improve ourselves. The more that we improve ourselves, the better life gets, you know? Now, it does come at a cost. It does take effort, and we will have opposition. But, yeah, I think it's important to always be improving ourselves. The more we improve ourselves, in whatever way it may be, you know, we're going to be more capable in life and have better things. So it works out, you know. This is the joy. This is the journey. And, yeah, just sharing my thoughts on that. And I'm going to begin this whole, you know, self-author. I'm going to try it out, you know. I'm always trying everything. I'm always experimenting with systems and stuff. So we'll see how it goes. And I don't know. So that's it, y'all. Hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I will see y'all next time.